I think we're going to go ahead and kick off our show. I'm sure we'll have some latecomers as we usually do, but we'll get through some of the housekeeping items and get to our main presentation today. So I want to thank everybody for joining today's webinar hosted by Rigado, featuring our partners at Cradlepoint. And we're going to talk about sensor networks for enterprises. And I'm really excited to have our friends from Cradlepoint on because it's their first time joining us on a webinar, and it's going to be exciting what we talk about. We've been working with them for quite a while on this joint initiative that we're going to get into today. So with that, I'll introduce myself, Steve Greta, VP Marketing Rigado. You probably recognize me from past Rigado webinars. And I also am pleased to welcome Devang Bhatt. Devang is the Product and Alliance Marketing Lead at Cradlepoint. Devang, good morning. How are you?
Good, Steve. Thank you. Really excited to be here, and really excited to talk about the journey we've gone through working with Rigado, onboarding them onto the Alliance program with this joint solution.
Yeah, great to have you, Devang. And I also want to introduce Michael Dickens, Global Sales Engineering Lead at Cradlepoint. Michael, ready to go today?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Looking forward to it.
Great. So a couple of housekeeping items, as I see a lot more people coming in, which is nice. As always, we're going to have take plenty of Q&A. We'll answer some live, and we'll also do some in the Q&A. The presentation, this webinar, will be recorded and sent to everybody. So we won't send out the slide deck, but we will send out the entire recording where we go through all the slides and we do the demo. So you'll all get that in an email later today. Please put your questions in the Zoom Q&A panel. There's a chat window. We prefer to take the questions in the Q&A tab in Zoom because it's easier for us to sort through them and moderate them that way. And we'll try to answer them there throughout the presentation, but we'll also bring some live if they require a little bit more elaboration. You can always drop a line to contact@rigado.com if you have something that comes up later that you forgot to ask or weren't able to get to. So feel free to reach out to us after the presentation. So let's get to it. And we've got a nice agenda here to introduce what Rigado and Cradlepoint have built together here. We're going to really quickly talk about ourselves as companies, but really just jump into this enterprise opportunity for solution providers and sensor networks and what you can do in a variety of commercial spaces for enterprises, and what we've actually put together here to make that as easy to deploy as ever. We're going to get into some nice use cases. I'm going to talk about the different types of sensors that we can deploy in a joint network from Rigado and Cradlepoint, and then we're going to do a demo. We're going to do a live demo. Michael's going to show us their NetCloud manager. I'm going to show some live data in Azure IoT Central. It should be pretty fun, interactive, and then we'll do a Q&A. So, 30, 40 minutes plus time for questions. And hopefully we get everybody's questions answered about these sensor networks, the opportunity, and give you something you can go and deploy. And we're going to talk about that. The last thing will be, how do you actually, go and get started with this? That's where we like to land everybody. So with that, let's get to it. If you're familiar with Rigado, you've probably seen something like this before. Rigado is the leader in edge device networks for commercial spaces. We really focus on low power wireless sensor networks that are a really good fit in places like smart buildings, commercial real estate, retail, logistics, and we're starting to see expansion into new spaces like healthcare settings. And what we talk about with Cradlepoint, we're going to be carrying our sensor network technology into all sorts of public spaces and mobility. We're really excited about that. We're a strong partner with all the cloud operators. You see Amazon AWS, Azure IoT, IBM Watson. So Rigado delivers data to the cloud applications that solution providers are delivering to the enterprise. So we're going to show a few of these sensors in action. Our Cascade Gateway platform runs a software we call Edge Connect. That is what does all of this sensor to cloud orchestration. We have an Edge Direct platform that does all the management. And now we're going to combine that with our friends at Cradlepoint to make it even easier to deploy. So everything that we talk about today is going to probably sound a lot like, excuse me, what Rigado has done in the past, but with a new twist that you can run it on other types of devices beyond our own gateway platform. So that's Rigado. And I want to bring in Devang to talk about Cradlepoint. Devang?
Yeah, thanks, Steve, for that intro. And yeah, so just a little bit about Cradlepoint. Founded in 2006, we have over 25,000 active customers. We're fast reaching the 2 million mark actually for subscriptions. And we're really the worldwide leader in LTE and 5G wireless edge solutions. So you'll see Cradlepoint deployed in the top 50% of the Fortune 100s. We're in global retailers, as well as very strong in the public sector market.
Thank you, Devang. Yeah, and also, we want to talk about Cradle's WAN Edge platform. Why don't you jump into that a little bit?
Yep, sure. So, whether we're talking about connecting fixed branch locations, such as a distributed satellite office or pop-up sites, clinics, and things of that nature, to vehicles and sort of in-vehicle applications, such as first responders or connecting IoT devices within a public transit, a bus, for example, to IoT things, such as connecting digital signage or video surveillance. Cradlepoint has this NetCloud service, which is sort of the overarching cloud management that enables management as well as visibility of what's happening for all of these different scenarios. It provides sort of the umbrella of technologies, specific for those requirements, whether it's edge security or if it's connecting multi-carriers for roaming, as well as edge computing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Is one of the features of Cradlepoint is edge computing on our edge routers.
Yeah, and for all those Rigado solution providers that are listening in here, you're familiar with our technology being in those fixed places. But think of this slide as we start going through this presentation, because you're going to start to see the ability to deploy those sensor networks in vehicles, in other spaces that might have been challenging in the past. So that's a really exciting, it's opening new doors, as we're going to see in the demo here. So thanks for that overview. So I want to bring in, because I know we've got a little bit of a mixed audience. There's probably a lot of Rigado people that have heard us talk about the opportunity in enterprises, but there's also, I think, a lot of Cradlepoint partners that are coming in and seeing us talk about IoT for the first time. And so for us, we really like to look at a couple of things. One is the growth of smart spaces, whether it's offices, retail, hospitality, pharmacies and clinics, arenas, just you name it. There's a desire for people to upgrade spaces to be smarter, to gain efficiencies, to do better asset management, to improve their cleaning service efficiency and reduce costs. So just some research here that kind of shows what that addressable market looks like, and why we're doing this, right? Why are we always looking for easier ways to deploy edge sensor networks that feed those applications, that rich data? It's use cases that we're going to talk about that feed into that market on the left. And on the right, we like to tip our hat to Bluetooth, because a lot of our sensors, as you know from Rigado, are Bluetooth based. They're low power wireless, battery operated, very easy to install. We're not exclusively Bluetooth, but the partnership that we've taken on with Cradlepoint here starts with enabling a Bluetooth radio on their devices and connecting to our sensors. And so it's always good to see that there's a huge growth in Bluetooth device shipments that's going to support this market. And beyond this, there's a lot of interesting vertical market growth that Devang, I think you guys have done a lot of exploration on your side. Anything you want to throw in here around the opportunity that you see for the Cradlepoint channel?
Yeah, I mean, one area that we see a lot, and I think Gartner is an example of this, is some of their reports showing that 40% of IoT things will know their location, right? And I think that's a very interesting statistic. And we're starting to see that more and more is, the applications knowing where things are, it becomes an operational efficiency requirement, whether it's in a retail restaurant or even in a moving vehicle. So I think that trend with the explosion of Bluetooth coupled with the ability to find things is where we see a lot of synergy. And I think this is it really defines a problem statement for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get into some use cases and where people can actually monetize that opportunity that we see. There's a special challenge that I always like to remind people of, because we've all been living it together, which is a lot of projects don't make it past the POC stage. And we've taken this on as Rigado in a number of ways with our Azure and AWS kits. But really what we see is projects are complicated. They are, the ROI isn't proven. The scale is a challenge. And these projects take many months to complete. If according to the research from the Microsoft team, they do their IoT signals report every year, and it's 11 months to complete a project. So while there's all this opportunity out there, there's all this struggle to bring things to production at scale. And the next thing I think that we're tackling here is, well, what if we can remove some of the necessary infrastructure that we have to add in every time we want to do a new pilot? In some cases, you have to, blanket a whole building with, say, Bluetooth radios, but there's a lot of existing network infrastructure out there. And our friends at Cradlepoint, as Devang showed, are one of the global leaders in providing that connectivity. So we jointly got together and said, well, how can we solve this problem? What if somebody already has a Cradlepoint router out there and they just want to add connectivity for sensor networks? Can we do something easier? Can we join OT and IT finally in a way that makes it more affordable and faster to deploy that pilot? And that gets us to our joint solution. What we want to talk about today and what we want to demonstrate is Rigado and Cradlepoint have come together. We have integrated Rigado's edge sensor network capabilities and what we call our Edge Connect software onto the Cradlepoint devices. And I'm actually going to hold one up here right now. This is a Cradlepoint E300. I'm running this in my home office. We'll get into the demo a little bit later, but this guy is running our Edge Connect software and connecting up a bunch of sensors in a true one box solution. It provides internet connectivity and it provides edge sensor network connectivity. And while I'd love to say that it's all about Edge Connect and what Rigado can do, it's hard to do that in a container secure, scalable environment. And so at this point, I want Michael, I'm going to bring you in to talk about how this works on the Cradlepoint, this NetCloud container system.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want me to go on the demo now or just talk to it? Sorry.
Let's talk to it. We're going to do the demo
Sure.
in just a minute.
So what we actually do is at Cradlepoint on our E300 and E3000, we have an expansion port where you can actually slide in this MC20BT. It's a Bluetooth radio that's additional. There it is. Thank you.
Yeah, this guy.
You're able to slide that in and it becomes a connectivity option that's in addition to all the Ethernet, Wi-Fi, everything like that. What we do then is deploy using NetCloud's container orchestrator to be able to go and grab Rigado's software, pull it down, and start running it. Now, we, of course, through NetCloud, I'm going to show you how we manage that and monitor it because it uses the same processor and memory as us. However, then through that, we're actually proxy the Bluetooth radio directly into Rigado software so then it can control that radio. Then on the left-hand side, you see all the sensors that are coming on board. It's able to communicate with those, get the information, and then it'll actually connect up into whichever cloud provider or application server, if it's private, that you want to send that data to. And that's why Rigado is a wonderful partnership is that all those sensors, all this communication up into the cloud, they're able to bring that together and manage that very quickly from their management as well.
Yeah, and we've done a ton of work to make this really simple to get going. In fact, I got this device. Michael sent me one to do the demo with. I plugged in the little Bluetooth module, went into NetCloud, turned it on, got my Rigado stuff set up with the peel and stick sensors that you all know, and it's just really easy to get going. And the whole idea here is for you solution providers, if you're an MSP, if you're a system integrator, whatever you think of yourselves as being in that role for creating a smart space, it's going to be very simple for you to onboard and get going and start to, prove that value to the end customer, the enterprise. So I want to get to the demo, but before we do that, just a couple of examples of the types of spaces that we're talking about here. We see, whether you're looking at from a Bluetooth perspective and where do these sensors work the best to where's the demand, there's a really neat intersection that's happening right now. And one of those is in retail, whether it's grocery, convenience stores, traditional retail stores, small format. You can kind of see some of the different sensors that we have pre-integrated into the solution so that if you want to go and deploy, say, an E300 or E3000 into a convenience store, put a couple of temp sensors up, that's the perfect type of solution environment for this solution. And you're going to see a pattern here as I go through a couple of different examples where there's a sensor network in the space that the customers are interacting with, employees are interacting with, and then it's all being managed and orchestrated by NetCloud and Rigado's Edge Direct to monitor and maintain that sensor network. So there's examples like smart retail, pharmacies and clinics. We've seen a lot of growth in this space, partially due to COVID and vaccine cold chain monitoring, but also due to the desire to have more reliability and monitoring of the customer experience, looking at door sensors, looking at alert buttons when customers need assistance with something. It just makes that so much easier. And again, you see all that orchestrated by NetCloud and Rigado's Edge Direct. The key thing I want to reiterate, though, is we are not taking in the sensor data. We aren't building the application for you. That is something that is provided directly to the cloud, whether it's AWS, Azure, IBM. So this is where the opportunity for the channel partners, the solution providers, to generate their own additional revenue stream comes in. You can actually take the sensor data, build your own application around it. Maybe you have an existing application you want to add some data to, and go and monetize that.
And I would add, Steve, just with AWS as well as Azure, they have very, very easy to use templates that can be customized, right? So you start with a base template and then you modify based on your specific applications. I think that really helps eradicate a lot of the barriers for deployments.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can jumpstart it using some off-the-shelf tools that they have. I'm going to show a Power BI example later that I built myself. So if you have a sophisticated application that you already have, great, we can integrate with that. We'll send the data wherever you want. But if you need something to get started, AWS and Azure have some things that are ready to go. And then mobile use cases. This is an exciting one for me. I've never been able to talk about mobile use cases really before because we haven't had a device that is purpose built for that market. Devon, talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, a good example is the cold chain monitoring. So it's essentially from, let's say, a factory to a site. We have the ability with Cradlepoint's R1900 series, which was recently announced. This has embedded Bluetooth capability. So unlike the 300, you don't need a module. It's a very integrated solution that can still support the container application running Rigado's application. So think about a scenario where you want to constantly monitor the temperature of an object. You have that in sort of a mobile environment. So this is really a great example of both Rigado and Cradlepoint coming together.
Yeah, and so as I've gone through these screens, hopefully they're just serving us some inspiration, some ideas. Generally, we have partners come to us and say, hey, I've got this opportunity. Do you have a sensor that works for it, or do you think that you could solve this problem? So, everything's a little bit different. What I would welcome you to do is reach out to us if you're seeing something here that looks maybe similar, but maybe even a little different than what you're seeing out there, and we can talk about that project. And also, as we go through the demo, feel free to drop stuff into the Q&A, and we can talk about that. And then finally, office and workplaces is a space we've done a lot of work in as Rigado. Another area where you can drop in sensors and start to look at desk occupancy, which I'm going to demo here shortly, restroom occupancy. You can really start to build out. And this is where I think an interesting thing happens, where you might have a Cradlepoint that is providing connectivity to the office, but you need to extend coverage with additional radios, which is fine to do as well. You could have one Cradlepoint, and then I've got our traditional Rigado Cascade gateway. You could use them in concert to have WAN connectivity, all the things that Cradlepoint does with 5G, and run Edge Connect on that as a baseline, and then use Rigado extenders to cover a whole space. So we have the whole thing covered, as we like to say. So that's office and workplace optimization. A lot of other spaces that we play in as well, but again, hopefully this gives some inspiration. And then just quickly to touch on the types of sensors that we're talking about. If you've seen our website and previous webinars, you're probably familiar with a lot of these. We really kind of span all the major sensing capabilities: conditions monitoring, alerts and displays. I'm going to show off the button here. The alert button, the flick button, has been really popular. Occupancy sensors, and as I hold these up, you'll notice how small these are. They're peel and stick installation. They have small batteries that last a long time, and they can do a variety of things. We've got asset tags here, employee badges. So all of these things on my desk here that I'm showing up are constantly feeding real-time data through this Cradlepoint device, and feeding the cloud application, whether it's something that's custom or it's a standard interface like Azure IoT Central. And also, I want to point out that while all of these devices are Azure certified and AWS integrated, we also do custom sensor integrations. So we've recently done some soap dispensers from a custom smart restroom solution. It's Bluetooth enabled. We integrated that into Edge Connect. We can do a variety of sensor integrations like that if you have something in mind that you want to take on. Okay, so we're going to hit the demo. And to start, I'd like Michael to give us a quick tour of NetCloud Manager and show us how the containers work.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, see this okay?
Looks great.
Perfect. So here we are in my demo account for NetCloud Manager. What I'm going to actually demonstrate is how the steps you take to actually deploy the container. So first and foremost, if you're in your own account, you want to jump over the tools, and you want to enable the container orchestration service. And you'll find that under tools, if you scroll down under the SDK, go ahead and enable that container orchestrator. This enables the software globally on your account to make sure that you can deploy. Now, for deploying, you can deploy on a group, which gives you a nice template. You can deploy on one router, 10,000 routers, 100,000 routers, and be able to scale this across all those at a time. For today, I'm just going to show you on a single device. So first off, I actually have my E3000 here running, and I'll show you the 1900 here just in a moment. But let's go ahead and go into configuration and edit. It'll pull up the UI pages, making it simple to navigate. If you jump over to System and Containers, first and foremost, you'll have to create a registry for going and getting the Rigado container. Rigado hosts their software on their own. You can reach out to support at rigado.com to be able to get the credentials to be able to log in to their container registry. Once you have that, we actually want to create a project. So if you click on Rigado here, I already have one running, but I'm just going to walk you through it. You can name it wherever you want. Recommend Rigado. Update interval, how often you want to go get the latest version. Right now, I'm just going to keep it on the current version. And then all we have to do is jump over to Docker Compose. And you're going to paste in this Compose configuration here. The nice thing that we do is over in Cradlepoint's knowledge base, we provide all this for you. So it's a simple copy and paste. You just paste it in here. It does all the configurations. I won't walk through all these here now, but this all talks to our container orchestrator and says, hey, this is what you need to run. This is where you need to get it. And these are the variables you want to be able to use within it. Couple of them that I do want to pull out is one, it automatically takes control of the Bluetooth module that I was speaking to that's in the E300, 3000, or R1900 and proxies that to the container so that Rigado can control it and get all the information. And then there's also a key that you require from Rigado. Again, if you want to reach out to the support, they'll be able to provide you your key for your license. And this is just enables the software to get started and running, of course. So once you have that in there, you'll save it. I'll hit cancel for now. And once you hit these commit changes, it'll actually reach out and start issuing this to all the routers or single router that you deploy. Let me go ahead and close this. Once it pulls down the image, it'll actually start to run it automatically. So if I jump in and click on the dashboard for this device specifically, you'll see there's an option for containers. Here you'll be able to come in and actually see, here we go, that the Rigado container is running. I can stop, start it, re-pull it, restart it. Gives you a lot of controls from NetCloud Manager. If I also come over here to the containers that are running in those specific projects, you can actually see the CPU usage, the memory usage, the image, and get a lot of good information and statistics about what applications you're running. Now, do note we're focused on Rigado here. You can run as many applications as you want, and we'll list, it's all the hardware depending on how much memory you have. If I jump over to devices once more, I just want to show you guys that, we can run this on multiple different platforms. I have my R1900, which is a 5G device as well for mobility that Steve was talking about for those mobile solutions. If I come over to containers, you can see that I'm running the same version as well, up and running. I've heard a lot of use cases for this where, for example, installers that usually have to use GPIOs to do sensors for doors opening and closing or having people counters or, connect those directly. It's really nice for them, the installers, to be able to just put in something as peel and stick, or maybe a little screw on if they want a more industrial shock 5. But this makes it really easy on this platform. And it's that easy to deploy.
Yeah, and Michael, I'll add for Rigado partners that have not used NetCloud before, maybe they're familiar with Cradlepoint, but they haven't gone in deep. This is pretty straightforward to do. There's a nice knowledge base article on it. We'll work through that with you. And the cool thing is once you set it up once, all of your Cradlepoint units in that site are going to have that capability. So really easy. Like I said, I set up myself last week for the first time, was able to get a dashboard up and going and seeing live data really quickly. And actually that's segues to the next part of our demo, which is seeing some data come in. So I'm going to bring up a dashboard that I built in Azure IoT Central. If you're familiar with the Rigado Presto Kit, Swift Kit, we've done this before. This is a good way if you're just starting out and you want to do a POC and you want to understand, hey, are these sensors, is this router, is it all going to work in the type of space that I'm looking at? I just want to see some temperature data. This is the way to do it. And then from there, you take the data into more sophisticated visualizations, Power BI, maybe your own mobile app. Maybe it's feeding into ServiceNow for some workflow management. But let me just show you a few examples because, we love to do live data demos here at Rigado. And this is the first time I've done one without a Cascade gateway. So as I said, I've got the Cradlepoint E300. I've got the Bluetooth radio installed. I went through the steps that Michael outlined, and I onboarded it onto my Azure IoT Central account. And now I'm surrounded by these sensors. I've got my temp sensor here, and you can see what it's showing here. I've got a CO2 monitor here. I've got humidity. So if you want to do live conditions monitoring as an example, that's great. I've got a people counter wired up, and it's drifted a little bit because I've got so many counts on it. It's been a little wild here. I've got kids running in and out, but you can kind of get an idea of how you could set up a real people counter if you're in retail or if you're in an office setting and you want to get true floor level, room level, or building level people counts. I've got my motion sensor here. So This guy, this is our RS-40 motion sensor, and you can see that it's over time, it's tracking kind of the motion count. It gives you a relative heat map. And so as I've been sitting here keeping busy, it's seeing a lot of activity, whereas, earlier it wasn't. And so that's a good way you can lay out these motion sensors throughout a site, individual seats, and see what the occupancy looks like. Obviously, occupancy is true for my motion sensor. I've got a door sensor here, so little magnetic sensor. If I separate the two, like opening the door, and I refresh the page, it should show that the door is now open. It's set to 1. Now, in your nice visualization that you create for your customer, your end customer, that's probably going to be a nice green box or a red box, whatever you want to do. But here you can see that the data is actually very real time. And likewise for my alert button, these are really handy. You can use them to track cleaning status, customer service requests, stock out issues in retail. If I press that button, you're going to see that it immediately is going to increment. So and there's all sorts of fun things you can do in IoT Central. You can set up rules so that you get text messages and emails. I have had fun deploying these little buttons around the house, and the kids can press them when we're out of Kleenex and things like that. So you can do a POC very simply. And again, it's a true one box solution. I've got my router providing WAN connectivity. It provides 5G failover in case my baseline internet goes out, and it's providing edge sensor connectivity all in one. Very efficient and effective. Also, historic data is something that's interesting as well. So if you look at temperature here, by the way, I'm in Portland, Oregon. You might have heard it's been a little hot here lately. And while my basement here remains relatively cool, I killed the AC for a couple of days, and you could see that, for a few days there, it peaked even in our cool basement here. And then also in the motion count, you can see I did this overnight, and it's basically been pretty empty here. And then as I get up and going in the morning, you can start to see motion activity, and then button presses over the past week. So again, if I press this a couple of times, you should see an increment there, but this is counting for the total week. So again, this is not the application you're going to give to a store operator to necessarily use every day, but it shows you the value of the live data, shows you what you can do with a combination of sensors that we've pre-integrated. And then finally, you can shovel this data off into something like a Power BI application, which I have right over here. This is one we did for a partner that's really looking into occupancy and cleaning. So they want to see a report every week of desk occupancy, returning to work, flexible work. Okay, where are people sitting? It's all, it's not personal information. It's just, okay, this desk number, or, in general, the entire building. And then how many people are using different restrooms on different floors, and how does that inform us when we should send the cleaning staff out? Instead of just doing it on a nightly basis like they have for the past 20 years, maybe we should only do it after X number of uses, since buildings are not being occupied the way they have in the past. So this is where you can start to get into some nicer visualizations using the same type of data that I demonstrated there in IoT Central. So again, please reach out to us if you have questions about the use cases, how to do something on a specific project you might have, how to integrate it into the rest of your IT network that you might have. And before we get to the Q&A and start wrapping this up, I do want to talk about how we set all this up. Michael alluded to it before, but I wanted to make sure everybody kind of understood the flow in case you decide to go ahead and get started here. So the first thing is on the Cradlepoint side, what Michael just showed, it all starts with getting to NetCloud Advanced, which, by the way, has a bunch of other cool features. I know it supports IDPS and a bunch of other, web content filtering. hopefully I got that right, Michael, but it's going to allow you to get to the container access as well, right?
Yep, absolutely, and close enough. And there's a whole bunch of features you can find on the website.
Yeah, so Cradlepoint NetCloud Advanced, it's an update to your subscription, and it allows you to run Edge Connect on those containers and not have to deploy a second box there with the gateway. And then, contact Rigado to get your Edge Connect licenses. We have kits that are available if you want to just do a trial pack. You can add sensors at any time. And if you've deployed a Rigado network before, hopefully you know how easy this is. Okay, I want to start with temp sensors. I want to add door sensors later. I want to add alert buttons later. That's really easy to do. Reach out to us and we'll talk about your project and get you some subscriptions to Edge Connect. Again, you don't need to buy Rigado gateways necessarily. You can add them if you want to create additional coverage, but a good way to get started is just loading Edge Connect onto the E300, 3000, or 1900. And then that installation that Michael just demonstrated, pretty straightforward. We're going to give you a license key. You're going to go into the NetCloud manager, install it, and then we're going to help set up your data pipeline. And this is where you can decide, hey, I just want a basic data pipeline with the standard data elements like I just showed on IoT Central. Just give me that. Or you can have some customization there. If you want us to pre-process it in a special way, we can send data to different pipelines. Maybe you want the occupancy data in one place and the temperature data in another place. Those are things that you can do all on that Edge Connect software running on the Docker container. So again, it's a pretty straightforward process, but we obviously like to be hands-on with these projects and walk you through any questions you might have. And with that, I think we're gonna maybe take some questions here. Again, I wanna thank our friends at Cradlepoint, Devang and Michael for joining us. And we're really excited about this initiative. I've added on to the slide here, sales@cradlepoint.com. So we recognize that there are folks that might be coming from the Rigado side that don't really know how to engage with Cradlepoint. So we've included that contact there and vice versa. So with that, why don't we get into a couple of questions? And I see one just got added there. We'll be covering on how you buy your solution, direct or via Cradlepoint. So hopefully I might have just touched on that, but you're going to buy the Cradlepoint solution from your Cradlepoint channel. So you can buy it through a Cradlepoint reseller channel partner and get your device from Cradlepoint. And then for the Rigado side of it, your Edge Connect subscription, your Rigado sensors, that's something that you reach out to Rigado to talk about. So we're sort of doing a co-sell initiative here. And hopefully that answers that question. Again, if you have a specific project and you're not sure how it's all going to be transacted commercially, just reach out to us. But saw that in the Q&A there. So we posted some. Oh, thank you for Devang posting the knowledge base articles in there. So I'm going to load the webinar recording. You'll see it on the Rigado site, probably Cradlepoint as well. It'll be emailed out to everybody shortly. Again, I don't see any other questions coming in, which is kind of a record given how many attendees we've had. We've had quite a few attendees. Usually we get a lot more questions. I think that kind of just means that we nailed it, you guys. But again, we'll hang on for just another minute in case folks have any other questions. I guess I'll throw one out myself for Devang and Michael to comment on, because I'm not of the Cradlepoint tribe here. So I'm curious your thoughts on if I'm a Cradlepoint partner, what are some things I should look for opportunity-wise to take on and go after with the pilot? Are you guys most excited about things like mobility, small branch, retail? What do you think we're going to see here in the early days of this initiative?
I mean, I guess I can take that, and Michael, you can
Sure.
add to that. I mean, I think in general, we see it across, many different verticals, right? Whether, like you mentioned, if it's sort of a retail environment, but it could be sort of a mobile environment. So we're sort of agnostic, but we do see, especially as we're looking at sort of the COVID and that going behind us, retailers still do want to bring in that sort of safety and ensuring that their spaces are optimized, right, when folks are in. So we do see a sort of uptick in those sort of requests. So I think that those are certainly ripe opportunities for this joint solution.
Yeah, I'll comment a little more. I've been in the networking world for a long time. And, if you want to call a branch, a building, or whatever, quick serve restaurant, retail, it's all switching, internet, fiber, and all those things to us. I'm really seeing a transition in the world of managing of IT to IoT/OT to be able to start bringing these things into buildings, right? Security is getting important, monitoring of items. And most IT professionals are like, what are we going to do for IoT devices in our stores or whatever type of footprint you may have, and bringing those together in one solution, like with Cradlepoint and Rigado, I really see that as the future, right? These things need to come together. They need to be done securely. And moving forward, you want to be able to make sure that you're not buying 18 solutions from all kinds of different providers to get this done. I think we can put all this into one, as Steve was showing all the different solutions that come together for all the data sets. On the backside of that, yes, mobility, I think this is going to be a quick growth as well. Like I said, installers, it's not easy to run all these wires through vehicles and hook everything up and get it communicating. If we're able to start doing things via Bluetooth with Rigado and be able to put these sensors in to be able to get into the data that they're looking for without having to do that, and they're ruggedized and can stay powered for long enough, there's usually power through the vehicle. That's simple enough, but getting back to the data source, that's the tough part. So that's a little more technical, a little more nerdy, but I really think that's the future of where we're going.
Well, speaking of Bluetooth, I kind of have to eat my words, because on our prep call, I said, I've never had a webinar as Rigado without somebody asking me about what's the range of Bluetooth and how much space can I cover with Bluetooth. And I will say I'm quite impressed with the performance. Rigado has a long history in Bluetooth, and this Bluetooth module on the E300 is working out great. For those that might not have a ton of experience working on Bluetooth from the Cradlepoint side, we typically look at it like an access point. It's the range is, we typically say 3,000 to 5,000 square feet of coverage per device. It depends on the type of space and the construction and all that. But Bluetooth does have BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy, does have quite good range, and we can handle hundreds and even thousands of sensors on one device, because we optimize our Edge Connect software to really get the most out of that radio. So I think you'll find that you get quite good coverage, and the ability to extend it with additional gateways is always there as well. So we feel, I think, really confidently, both Cradlepoint and Rigado, about your ability to take one of these devices into a branch or a mobile setting and really light it up with the variety of interesting use cases to go and create value out of. So with that, I don't see any more questions. I'm sure we'll get some as a follow-up, and we'll get back to you on those. Again, Devon, Michael, thanks a lot. It's been great getting here. All the work that our teams jointly have put into this to make this happen, make this work, has been great.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone that's joined.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, it's great partnership, and really looking forward to the opportunities.
Yep. And with that, thanks to all of our attendees. We'll send out the recording, and enjoy the rest of your week and your holiday next weekend. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.